the cure might be worse than the problem. Quote, they paved paradise and put in a parking lot, unquote. Joni Mitchell. I've made it a point over the past 20 plus years to avoid commenting on the works of other columnists. However, Mr. Don Keelan's column of September 27th did give me something to think about. His column began by mentioning the high honor of serving as Master of Ceremonies for the placement of a new road sign in Arlington, Vermont, recognizing Revolutionary War hero Captain Remember Baker. I would agree that it's about time that Captain Baker be recognized, and congratulations are in order for him emceeing this event. My family was living in Dorset back then, and I suspected that they might have known Captain Baker. I'm pretty sure they knew the Allen brothers as well. Lemuel and his brother Lobias Stannard lived on Stannard Road, that today is known as Nims Road off Dorset West Road. Most Stanards have been displaced these days by the high cost of housing. The days of buying a piece of land and building a house for local people have all but disappeared. The columnist uses this event to point out that Vermonters might not be as independent as we'd like to think, and then offers solutions to the possible tsunami wave of federal cuts headed our way. A fair job is done in explaining how Vermont is dependent upon the federal government. It should be noted that 20 other states also receive more federal aid than they contribute. It was not that constant barrage of attacks on nonprofits, nor the blaming of all of our woes on Senator Bernie Sanders that prompted this column. No, it was the remedy for Vermont's problems that I found puzzling. I will quote. He said, the growing of Vermont economy by encouraging commercial companies to recognize that Vermont is open for business would be a good start. It would mean that Governor Phil Scott should declare a state of emergency and have officials at the state and local levels fast-track projects by streamlining regulations, adopting timelines for approvals, and addressing the level of intellectual dishonesty often evident when projects are proposed, such as the NIMBY, not in my backyard, syndrome. The message is that all Vermont needs to do is open its doors and let developers from far and wide come here and develop. According to USA Facts, here are the top 5 states that receive a lot of federal funding. California, $162.9 billion. New York, $110.2 billion. Texas, $105.8 billion. Florida, $58 billion. Pennsylvania, $57.1 billion. That's how much these states receive from federal funding. Now, I could be wrong, but 2 things seem to stand out here. First, all 5 of these states have a lot of development. Next to none of these states, however, can compete with Vermont in terms of environment, quaint villages, quality of life, and bucolic countryside. These assets are what appeal to our well-heeled friends from downcountry who don't bat an eye at spending $1 million for a piece of Vermont. Why are people moving to Vermont? Is it for the shopping malls, devoured landscapes, and overrun development? That's not the sense that most of us have. They're coming here because for decades, dedicated Vermonters have worked tirelessly to not let developers destroy our state. Now, there's a case in point occurring right now in Manchester, Vermont. A New Jersey-based company, a developer, wants to build a Valvoline store right on the entrance to Manchester. They're looking to build a large building out of scale and out of place across from RK Miles at the current small gas station. In addition, they're proposing to demolish the Fullerton building, most recently known as the Firefly. Previously, it was the historic Taco House. When I served as a state representative, I occasionally stopped by the Taco House on my way home to get the real news on what was happening in town. The impact that this building has had on our community was made clear with a picture of all the patrons standing on the steps, hoisting one last glass. In 1866, William Fullerton opened his marble company in the building that is now used by R.K. Miles' corporate office. Next, he built the building that we know as the Firefly. Sometime in the 1950s, I remember going into that building when it was a Levi's store. I got my first pair of dungarees at that building. It was then owned by Mr. Ned Camber, who I believe was one of the first Jewish people to move here. If a building built at the end of the Civil War does not qualify as a historic building, then I don't know what does. Yeah, sure, every town needs some industry, but the question is at what scale and at what sacrifice? The reason Vermont stands out above the other states is that we put a high priority on our heritage and our history. Tearing down this most important building to make way for an oil service garage at the gateway to our town may very well be the most misguided idea ever. But since my colleague believes that streamlined development is the remedy, perhaps he might entice Valvoline to come to Arlington and set up shop right next to the new road sign memorial for Remember Baker. My name is Bob Stannard, and this is The View from My Place. Thanks for watching.